When I have my camera on, so at least you can see me. Good evening. All right. So yeah, my name is Nathan, and most of you have had the chance to meet me already. Those that don't, I am a product manager at heart. I have been a product manager for the past 12 years. And prior to that, I worked in software development for about 5 years prior, and I found my calling into product. And mainly because I am a problem solver. I love to solve problems, and I also love to, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Romy, can you hear me? Iana?
Yes.
Okay, Iana says she can't hear me. I don't know why. Anyway. Iana, anyway. Cool. So I was saying, I've been a product manager for the past 12 years, and I really enjoy it primarily because it is, gives me an intersection of being able to apply systems thinking, business thinking, allows me to apply user experience research and design. And also it allows me to combine that with my technical expertise to be able to create products that actually people enjoy. So currently, I'm on the quest to really, I'm on the quest to help people like us, that is people of color, especially. In my 12 years in being in product, I've come to realize that it is very not representative of people like us. I've worked in several companies where I've literally been the only Black person or African in the whole company, and it's not, after a while it gets to you, and it's pretty much still the same. My recent gigs that I've been in the city, so everybody is, it's just very homogenous, and I want to see people like us represented in this field. So this is like a labor of love and a burden on me and on a mission. And I'm honored to be able to, pursue this with Ayana in my corner to make product management and help anyone that wants to break into tech have that opportunity. So that's in a nutshell who I am and what I'm about. So before we start, this is our inaugural class. So it's going to start pretty slow at first to really drive home to, the class to understand what product management is and what it isn't, right? I know in the info session, we touched up on it briefly, but I want to go a little bit deeper today. And then at the end of the class, I will then, this is, consider this as lecture 0. This is like the beginning, the genesis. It will be very informal for this class, but the next class I would have assignments and some reading assigned to you, some blogs and books, and also some sort of homework. I don't want to use the word homework because then it feels like you're back in college and having deadlines and all that, but it's a way to reinforce what we learn in the class. So it's not just me talking at you or talking to you, things that you can just read in the book, but I want you to have that practical experience and the hands-on experience. So the way the classes will be structured is that there'll be actual hands-on experience. So there's one thing to just read a book or be lectured at, and there's another thing to really have the chance to, for example, know how to create a product requirement document. We're going to go through that and be able to walk through that whole process And then as a product manager, how do you define the product roadmap for your team? So that will be an exercise that we're gonna take on, and what needs to go into your product requirements documentation and what shouldn't. What is the must have and what is should have and all that good stuff. And then when we do the product roadmap, understanding, going from an idea and building from that idea, how do you do requirements gathering? That is, how do you even understand, first of all, what you're building? Who are you building it for? Why are you building it for them? And then working closely with what we call cross-functional, which is people that are not necessarily on your team, because it's called stakeholder management. So we're going to walk through all those examples. And I have explained to a few people in the class already that I'm blessed to have an agency that builds software for a lot of clients. And I would want you to more or less have an apprentice role, not just listed on your resume or on LinkedIn, but actually having that experience of meeting the team. Everything is done virtually and we're pretty flexible. And you'll be involved in our meetings, because as a product manager, some of the things that you would be required to do is lead. You're a product lead, you're leading a team. And as I said prior in the info session, and I'll go through the slides also and explain some of it in depth. You own the product. That product is your domain. You are the subject matter expert. You must, at any moment in time, at the drop of the hat, be put into any meeting, and you must know what the product is doing. You are the product's doctor. You have to have your fingers on the pulse of the app or the product that you're working on. You should know your metrics. That is, when the last feature was pushed, you should know how many users have onboarded. You should know how many, what's your revenue? What is your activation like? How's the engagement? What's the span of the engagement? Is it, what's your MAU, which is the monthly active usage, your weekly, your daily? And be able to draw insights from this and be able to answer critical questions. So you're pretty much at the seat and guiding, like I use the analogy of an orchestra. You are the conductor, making sure that the symphony of the software lifecycle goes perfectly. And you have a lot of responsibility, but you don't have any authority. And that means you cannot say, hey, I don't like this person, so I'm going to fire you. That will have to be done by, it depends on the level that you're at, either by a VP or a senior VP or the chief product officer or CEO. You share in the successes, but you take all the blame, because at the end of the day, when things go down, everyone will blame you, because you are the manager, you are the owner of the product. And so that is, in a nutshell, what is expected of you. So setting that expectation, we will require that you will learn how to not just talk about leading sprint planning, right? But actually being part of that sprint planning. So we have the weekends where, depending on your availability, we can have you sitting in meetings, understand how you work with engineers, developers, how you work with designers, understanding their temperaments, understanding, because engineers are very rational and very analytical. How do you present data or information to them in a cogent manner that they can assimilate, and they can also take and see the vision? You are the visionary, right? You are the one leading the charge for the whole team. So you set the tone of how things go, and learning how to communicate effectively with your engineers is critical, with data scientists, with user experience researchers and UI designers, and always having that documentation in a backlog, a place where you keep track, backlog of requests or your own research findings and anything, or in a backlog, and then you have to walk through not just gathering information, but you also have the opportunity to what? Periodically and occasionally go through the backlog and groom. When we say groom, your backlog may have so many information coming from several sources. Some of it will be coming from, of course, the C-suite, the CEO, the chief product officer, the senior vice president, director, you name it, right? They all come in and they all have ideas. Some of it can come from doing your competitive analysis of the landscape that you're in and coming up, doing, what we call SWOT analysis. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? What is happening in your incumbents in the field and how are they executing, and getting some data from that and bring it back to the team to basically hash together and figure out the right path to executing that particular vision. You are also responsible for not just gathering the data, but making sure that it's ready to be worked on. So when you groom data, you have to go in and check and make sure that all the requests that are coming in, you review them, because some of them are redundant, some of them are not really that important against your business goals, against the business objectives. So these are things that you have to have your pulse on. So there's a lot at any given time that is hinging on you as the product manager, in a nutshell. So we would definitely want, we want you to be able to have real hands-on experience in working through these kind of scenarios. Okay. So go through this. Can you see my slide, please?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I take it everybody can see my slide. So I guess the big question here is, what is product management? I gave a quick overview. And so what is product management itself? So this is a definition that has been floating around as to what product management is. This is coming from the product management body of knowledge book, from pages 37 to 38. So product management is a process of conceiving, planning, developing, testing, launching, delivering, and withdrawing products in the market. And I'm going to touch up on these various aspects of product management. So the conceiving aspect of product management is the visionary state or the ideation state. This is where the state where the product has not even seen the light of day. It's a figment of an imagination, and it could come from anywhere. It could come from an existing product, or it could be conceiving a very new greenfield product that is yet to come to life. And so the conception of the idea could also come from an existing product or a pain point that current users of the app are facing and want to address. So, and it could also come from you as the product manager yourself, as a user of a product. And you constantly have this idea, how can we improve this app? Or how can we enhance it to make it even better? So these are some of the places where the conception will come from. Now, after conceiving that idea, you want to plan. There's a saying that failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So this is where road mapping comes in. This is where product requirement documentation comes in. This is where you are bringing in what we call alignment with different stakeholders. Now, some of the stakeholders in any given operation or any business or enterprise could vary depending on the industry that you're in. And product management is not just in tech. Product management is also in, well, healthcare. Tech is in the world. So we see product management in healthcare, in finance. So now finance is called fintech. We have health tech. We see product management in even education. So we have ed tech, right? We have product management in travel. There's OTA, which is online travel agency. Like you name it, product is there. Wherever code is, you need product managers to guide developers in building the right thing. The reason why product managers are very important in the ecosystem is more or less they are an extension of the CEO, the chief executive officer, or in a more mature company that has a chief product officer, product managers are extensions of this chief product officer, helping to champion a goal, a vision, a mission for the company. And they are very much needed because, or we are very much needed. I'll use the word we, because that's what we are and are going to become. So product managers are very needed because software engineering is very expensive. It's not cheap. Companies have to optimize for building the right thing and not just building for building's sake. Gone are the days when we had developers who knew how to code, obviously. They were called programmers, and they would just be holed up in a room or be in a basement in a dark room with a green screen and just writing code and not talking to the customer. At the end of the day, because the market was very new, the consumer was just at the mercy of whatever was written, whether it was intuitive or not, whether it was difficult to understand. That was the only software that was available. So everybody had to use it and learn how to deal with the pain. But fast forward to now, the consumer is very sophisticated, very educated, and very in tune and has options. So in the marketplace or in the landscape, when you have options and you're very educated and you're spoiled for choice, then the customer is king and they make or drive decision making. So if you're using, say, Google or using Microsoft Explorer and it's giving you problems, you can jump to Firefox. If Firefox is not doing it for you, you can go to Chrome. If Chrome is not doing it for you, you can go to Safari and you name it. So corporations are vying for consumer, engagement and acquisition and eyeballs. An example, companies like Google, before Google became a household name, everybody was used to the incumbents. There was Yahoo, who was king for a while. There was InfoSeek. There was Dogpile. There was Alta Vista. There was one called Excite. And they were all like around, Ask Jeeves, and they were all in one space called what? Search. And then along comes this darling boy called Google out of a Stanford dormitory by two PhD students. And how do they gain that market share to become the dominant force that they are and literally unseat everybody along the way? It is because they had they prioritized product management to the T. A lady by name Marissa Mayer, whom Google employed as one of the first employees at Google, was the one that set the tone for the product management, the product design ethos for all the products that Google rolled out, and set the tone for how things should be, and not just how they should be, but how to differentiate Google from the competition. So if you look at, I don't know if you were into tech back then, I was lucky to have been in this country. I came here 2 years after Google launched, and I lived in California. So I saw these happening. People were using Yahoo, some were using Google. But what differentiated Google was the product management that Marissa Mayer brought, because it was just a bunch of engineers. They knew what they were doing. They knew their craft. But Marissa Mayer studied something called symbolic systems at Stanford, which is an amazing program that teaches, about psychology teaches about, you do cognitive studies, psychology, not just building stuff just to build them, but even the way you place the letters, where you place the search box, the colors, and the whole display makes sense. And she used a scientific approach where she actually would test everything that she did against the competition and against the user and getting user feedback. Unlike Yahoo was the king, and going to Yahoo's page was like being at Times Square. Everything was screaming for your attention. Like it was all bright and colors and everything screaming for your attention. Marissa Mayer decided to strip all that and make the main thing, which is the search box that we find at Google in the main place. So this is an example of how product management done right will do wonders for a company. And that's why companies are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire the right person to lead their product initiatives. And I'll give you one more example. Between Microsoft and Apple, one company is very obsessed about the customer and the end user. Apple is a quintessential product manager's paradise. Steve Jobs is by far the product manager's product manager. He lived and breathed product. He was very particular about the fonts, the spacing, the zenness of how the UI was even laid out, the translucency, like skeuomorphic design, you name it. They had very differentiated tasks, and their product managers had a very specific way of doing things, right? And you can see how it pays off. Apple's market share has, blown into the trillions because they listen to the customer. They listen to the customer and they build for the customer. And that is why companies like Amazon is very key on hiring and very critical when it comes to hiring product managers, because they want people who are intuitive, people who are analytical, people who are creative, and people who are empathetic, right? And people who can also have the courage to break the rules and get things done. So these are the few examples that I just wanted to highlight as to why product managers are very much needed. So after you as a product manager has gone through the planning, you have to have a documentation and a process and write user stories in a way that your engineers can take and be able to write code for. Because as a product manager, you are a storyteller. You are capturing, you are the spirit, or what we say, you are the soul behind the console. Because computers are just consoles of plastic, wires, and metals. And you are the one that brings life to it, and meaning to a product that some people just can't get out of certain apps. They live and die by it. Come as Instagram, they can scroll and scroll and scroll, and they can post and post and post. TikTok, you name it, Snapchat. The reason being, a lot of thought went into the designing, the conception, the planning, the development, and all the other stuff that comes with it. And you as a product manager needs to know enough to be able to speak tech. You are also, in a way, like a translator. You are the one that's translating the user's needs from English or from any language or from human speak into geek speak or to tech speak to the product managers. So they can take what you have done your research on, right, and be able to present it in ones and zeros. You are responsible for championing the vision to your designers so they can understand why you have to design it this way or not, and not that way. And you are the one that has to help guide that process. You're not the one you're not required to write the code. You're not required to do the designs. It's good if you can do some sketches and do some wireframing. That can go a long way, but it's not a requisite skill. But it's nice to have that can really move the needle. But it is essential that you truly understand your UX team. Your UX researchers will be your best friend, because that's when you are in the conception stage and planning, you are working closely with them, and keeping your ears to the ground because you are doing ethnographic studies. You'll be doing what we call understanding your segment of users and doing persona design, knowing who, the demographic, like age, their salary, level of education, marital status, their income, in what scenarios they would use this particular application. So these are all the areas that as a product manager, you should have your pulse on. Depending on the maturity of the company that you are a part of, if it's a startup, you'll be wearing so many hats. You'll be doing wireframing, you'll be doing documentation design, mood boards, you'll be writing user stories, you'll be doing a host of stuff. In more mature companies like Google, Facebook's, they have, like I worked at AT&T, they had a dedicated team for analytics. When you need data, you request the data and they will pull that data in a beautiful way for you. And you can, have a dialogue with them to understand what you need. When you need to do ethnographic studies, you need to come up with surveys. You need to come up with questionnaires. You can do focus groups. There are so many ways, and you can do user testing, both remote and in the field, to gather data, right? Because that data informs what needs to be developed. So that's the developing stage. And that data also needs to have a documentation on what is considered the accepted criteria for saying this particular feature is done. So this is all delineated in that documentation. And you need to also have it so cogent and very clear that the developers can also test, right? Write unit test cases for the product that you are working on or building so that it performs and does what it's supposed to do, right? So I'm going to backtrack a little bit and explain why we still need product managers, right? Because if you don't tell engineers what to do, and designers and developers and all the other stakeholders what point them to what is moving the needle, that is what is adding value to the business, then you just be doing a lot of work. You always be building, but not releasing or building anything that is of value. And when I did the math, just my team, I think I said that before, I had me as a product manager, I had at least 3 or 4 people with me. And on average, we're all earning about 6 figures. So just for one little feature, it's costing the company $500,000. And there's product display page, there's product listing page, there's search team, there's you name it. So every team has its own product manager, and every team has its own developers, and each team has its own designers, and all the other people involved. So you look at one company and you realize that millions are going in every year just to keep it. But they know the value of what they get at the end of each quarter. When you have the right skill sets, the right teams who have focused on each portion of the app, that is how they can come up with $1 billion in revenue, because they are always iterating, always testing. And testing is not just code. Testing is also testing the UI, testing the user experience, the journey map, from how the users use the software from point A to point B. Are the users actually coming up with the intended outcome that we expect of them, right? So testing is not just the code, but also on the user experience, on the UI itself, on like every facet of the app that is, or the app or product has to be tested. And you do incremental tests and iterative tests, because the testing brings in more data points that informs the direction of the application. So the team can know, do we pivot from what we are building, or do we persevere or persist with what we're building? And that will save the company millions, and if not billions, down the road. And that is why product managers are very much needed and in high demand, because enterprises and corporations see the value. It's not just an engineering culture where they rule, but product managers are very much needed. And then I want to touch up on launching. After you build this, you've gone through the process, you've done your for conception, that is probably the easiest thing, but planning and development, testing, now you need to have a cadence of how you're going to release the app. And releasing or launching the app is not just done in vacuum. You have a product, a roadmap, you have a timeline, estimations are done based off the planning stage, and estimations are done during development, how long it will take for code to be written. Estimations are done for testing. And then we also look at when we can launch. We project when we can launch the product. And launching a product comes with a lot of fanfare. Some of it includes reaching out to industry experts, reaching out to news outlets, media, because you have to get the word out there. Some of it would also involve marketing campaigns, right? Getting the right copy. Copy means the content of the app, if it has to be read, making sure that everything, like all the I's are dotted, T's crossed, typos out. The message of the app or the product is very clear and unambiguous, making sure that where there's a call to action and the funnel to guide customers is all in place. So it's a whole ball game on its own. So each of these stages, companies have now realized that product management is not just, we have what we call generalists, and we have those who are specialists. So now they want product managers who are generalists, but they also want product managers who are what we call technical product managers, who are very technical and can really be embedded with the development team. And they can challenge developers and also encourage them in building the right thing, right? So as a product manager, you have to have a backbone. You're not a short order cook. Just take a laundry list of requests and just go there and just work them from A to Z. No, you have to think through what is the business goal? What is the overarching business outcome? What are we solving for? And you make your decisions driven by data that has been collected, has been vetted, has been tested, you've reached a consensus with the team and prioritized. And that is what you work on. So now product teams or companies are bifurcating and delineating product managers into different areas. So in this area for launching and marketing and all that comes into play. So there's a specific group called product marketing managers. They are product managers, but they are more on the marketing aspect, because that is also a life cycle that has been managed. You don't just launch a product in winter, or you just launch it in summer, or you just launch it in the fall, or whatever, nilly-willy. Products are launched with a goal in mind, right? If it's a product that has to be coincide with summer when people have to be out and about, then you have to target that, okay, from this target date, let's now work with the end backward to the beginning and see how many iterations that we have to go through to reach that target day. If not, we have to push it to the next year. And what are the factors that have to come into place? You don't just wake up and say, okay, now we're nearing completion. Let's start talking to vendors or whatever. All that has to be prepared. Marketing docs have to be prepared, research done about the product, who's going to be on it. Everything that is related to the product has to have been all worked about and worked on, right? And you start talking to your NBCs, your Bloombergs, your TechCrunches, and all these other outlets ahead of time, your vendors, your user base, periodically write blogs or posts to show them where you are now, and then doing what we call alpha test or alpha invitation or beta invitation to just a small subset to keep testing out the product before you even launch. So all these aspects, as a product manager, you need to be versatile. You need to be very much in tune and have a finger on this. At any given time, you are in the middle. You need to be able to know what marketing is doing. You need to know what your QAs are doing for both your code and for the pixels that you're pushing, that is pixel perfect. You need to know what the developers are. What sprint are we on? Have you groomed? Have you done sprint planning and groomed your backlog? So after you groom the backlog, have you had meetings on a cadence to always go through your backlog, and you prioritize the items in the backlog, and then you size them? This item here or this feature we thought will take this much, and you score them by 1, 3, 5, and up. And if anything above 5 or 8, you want to break it into smaller components. And then look at historical data, how many stories points your team is able to carry within every sprint cycle. So sprint could be, usually most companies do every 2 weeks, but some companies that I've been with also do every 3 weeks. Rarely do they do monthly, because then you know the market moves so quickly that you would be so behind. So 2 weeks is the sweet spot. Some do 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks, you have to have you have to always be planning ahead and have gone through your backlog and prioritize them with a team. You prioritize it and size it and groom it. Make sure every story has all the features that you need. The user story is written well. The design comps are in there. Everything that is needed is in there and is ready and has been prioritized because it's needed, and all is ready. So when you do your sprint planning, you know who's taking which code and who's working on which pixel, who's working on what, and you reeling the stakeholders so they are in alignment, because there will be some pushback. You have to look at dependencies. Like, for example, when I worked on the global navigation, it is very visible. That's the first, what we call upper funnel, the top, where every user comes through is looking to the menu to figure out how to navigate the application. So my product touches search, because the search box is right there in that menu. The shopping cart is in there, and the accounts, business, everything is right in there. So every team, the shopping cart team, works with me. I need to have alignment with them, with the search team. I need to have alignment with everybody else, because any break from or any changes from my top can affect the user flow for the entire ecosystem. So you become like the go-to person, and you have to really know what you're doing, right? And then also, what they say, so launching and delivering, making sure that if your product is global, it's reaching the right people at the right time when they need it. Some products are in regions, like we have North America. There is what we call MENA, Middle East and North Africa. There's APAC, Asia Pacific, and China. And then there's, you name it. There's also LATAM, which is Latin America, and so many other acronyms, right? So you need to make sure that whoever is being served, you have, if it's a digital product, you have the servers that are ready to be able to handle the load when you go live, and the content delivery networks are ready. So you work with the engineering management team, the DevOps, the SysOps, to make sure all these are checked and ready to go, so that there's no crash once you roll out. So that's part of the delivering. And then final thing is withdrawing products. Sometimes products go out into the, and they live out its purpose. And eventually you just have to, what we call sunsetting. Because products have to be maintained, quarter over quarter, year over year, and it costs the company money. So when the product's life value is no longer adding any value to the user or to the company, then you have to find ways to eventually sunset the product. So you, as a product manager, you are involved in all that as well, right? I don't know if I should ask any questions so far, any concerns?
I don't have any.
Okay, Romy?
Oh, it looks like Shanta has a question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Wow, okay, let me do this. Can you let me, because I have my things full screen, so it's hard to see. Let me do,
I can read it to you. Sorry, I'm just eating.
sure.
When you say user stories, what are you what are you referring to? And can you give an example?
Okay, that's a good question. So, when you say,
Recording in progress.
sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So when you say user stories, a user story is, it is, for example, I'm trying to think of, so let's look at a product that you like. Let's say Google Maps or Gmail. So with Gmail, it's an email client or email application. The general purpose is that you go in to check your email, you go into send email, and you go into, basically the overarching theme here is I go in, I check my emails. I want to be able to see the list of emails, read them, respond to them, or create an email, and that's about it. But there are other nuanced usages, right? Where you can actually send an email in a list. You can actually, you can send email in a list. You can schedule. Because Gmail is now integrated with Calendar, or if you're using Outlook, is baked into Calendar scheduling, to Zoom and also Microsoft Teams and all that. So all the actions that I just said, logging in to search or to find your emails, and then reading your email. So one, you have to either, as a user, you want to sign up, right? Sign up for the service, create an account, and then authenticate the account, and then be able to log in. And then after you log in, you want to be able to see your emails fetched. You want to see a list of them, and then you want to be able to click and read one of them, right? And be able to also respond or delete. And the list goes on and on. So every one of these steps that I just mentioned, creating an account, signing up, reading your email, responding to an email, creating an email message, those are user actions. And everything that you do is like a story. That's why I said that product manager as a storyteller. So you are telling a story about the user journey. And computers or programmers or coders, whatever you want to call them, when we are writing code, you are writing the code to follow what the user is, what we call user driven, or there is something called BDD, which is behavior driven development, right? So you're not just developing in a vacuum, but as you are developing, you are basically writing code is like writing, it's like writing a novel, right? All the actions are pretty much language. That's why we call it programming language. Just like you say, to check an email, what do? Step one, I need to sign up for the email. Step two, I need to be able to sign up, create an account and all that. But each step also has sub-steps. So what do I mean by sign up for an email? That means I have to input my, put my email here, put a password, confirm the password, and in some cases, put my first name, last name, date of birth, and all that stuff. So user story will go like this. As a user, I want to be able to, sign up for email service, right? That's a broad user story. But user stories also have different gradations. We have user stories, we have what we call, tasks, we have epics, and we have different levels. So some user stories are very broad. For example, I want you to search for past emails. That's a very broad term. But when you break it down, you find out that even the search, there are so many steps that come in. You can do a normal search, just type in and search everything you want. But the system also can do what we call auto-complete and auto-suggestion and all these other things. These are things that you think about and want to add to enhance the user experience. So I can say that as a user, an Gmail user, I want to be able to have auto suggestions. You know, when I want to, so sort of as a user of this app, I want, and then what feature you want, and then what's the action, so that this will happen. So the product manager was saying, instead of just telling the developers, oh, we just want a feature where they can sign up for the email, you have to go a little bit deeper. You say, as a Gmail, you have to define what you mean. A new Gmail user, I want to sign up for the service without any friction, or I want to be able to sign up for the service and be able to log into the service. So that is a user story. And then there'll be some subtasks. Okay, what do you mean by sign up? So they have to click. These are the tasks. They have to click on this button, and then you have to have a design of that app, of that button, the composition of it in the user story, so that the engineer can just pull that design comp and it's linked to the design that has been done by the UX team. So when I'm writing my code, okay, I say Gmail, a new Gmail user, so I know that I'm not designing for an existing user, but for I'm coding for a new user. I want to be able to sign up for the service. And what are subtags? I click on this button, I click on that image, and I see how it looks like. I input my email here, and there's an arrow showing where the email will go. And then I will put in my new password and then confirm password. And then I can write sub notes. Make sure that the password match feature works, right? So those kind of documentation that are written is a huge, and I think I have one that I can show. Let's see. I have one that I can show if I can log into here. So you can see every user action is a user story. Does that make sense? Okay, so Shanta said yes. So every user action, everything that they do, everything they write, everything they take care of has to be accounted for, because we can talk about what they need to do, but what is written down in English, it's just English, but it has to, or any language that you want to write it in. But after it's all said and done, you want to break it down further so that your engineers can pretty much it's written in engineering speak, right? So they can pick that and move on from there and achieve what they need to achieve. I just want to show an example of it right here. I'm going to share my screen. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Let's see, not that. Okay, let me just share the entire screen. Yeah, let me share the entire screen. Okay, now can you see the screen? Now, so this is an example of, Jira software. It's a software that's used to manage product development. So this is a product that I was working on called Unity. And when I click on it, it shows me, as it's loading, you see very soon, it will show me all the, the tasks that we would need to be working on, right? It will show me all the, man, it's taking forever. Okay. So here we have the board, but I can go to the backlog, right? And bear with the internet connection here. It's still loading. So here, a backlog is where you as a product manager goes in to dump. These are all issues like stories, right? So everything you see here are like user stories, and each one paints a different story. It's like writing a book, right? Every one of these stories has a reason and a purpose for being in here. It's not in here by accident, right? So for example, becoming a Unity influencer sequence this explains how, we can understand how to become an influencer. That I can just tell you in English because that's the language that we speak. But to the developer, they think in logic and they think in steps. They have to think that way so they can program the computer or write the code to be executed in those logical steps. So when you click on something like this, becoming a Unity influencer sequence, that opens that particular, it is taking a while to load, but it's loading up on this side, on the right side, and I can open it up and make it bigger. But just bear with me while it opens. So this is like a document. So right here, this is an example of a user story. This goes through the whole breakdown of how that particular feature is still loading the images. It's creating a preview. So here is an example of a user story. So if as a developer working on this, I just go in here and I know that, okay, we did a sprint planning and I was assigned, or I said, I want to work on this particular feature. So this story is called Become a Unity Influencer sequence. So this user story this is for students, who is as a platform for high school students who are getting ready to go to college or need internships and whatnot. So why become a Unity influencer? As a student, I want to read about the Unity influencer program so that I can learn more about how to choose to apply or not apply. So this is not, that's a typo or just English mistake, right? So here, I add a note to the developer that the terms and conditions here can be scrolled through in the modal. The modal, you understand as we go to this class, terms like modal window, pop-up window, and all that, but not unlike the prototype mistake here. And the terms and conditions is the only thing that we will enable the modal. So typically when you click on the modal window, that means something will cover the entire screen with the terms and condition that they can scroll through and read. And this is the image, how it should be, so the developer can see, right? This is a comp that has been already done, right? So that I can just pick this and then it will link to the Figma or whatever design tool that we're using. And then I can see all the pictures I need. I can take this, I can export them from the design into my code and then make sure I lay them in the right place or the text is in the right place. And then all these things are coded, right? So that's what a user story is. And then there's another user story that's embedded that as a student, I would like to click on submit my application so that I can apply to the Unity Influencer program. Then it shows you that screen. There's a process. You click it. I've read and agreed to the terms and conditions. I hit submit applications. So it gives me the terms and conditions. I check the box, see the sequence before this comes out. And then the user has to check on it. So it shows you the terms and conditions when you click on this terms and conditions. And then I can check the box. So when I check this box before, it was it was a teal color, not clickable. But when I click on this, it's telling the developer, develop the screen first. And then after you develop the screen, show the terms and condition text if they click on that. And then when they check this button, make this green. So it shows that's clickable, right? And then you can submit it. And all the design comps are all here. So the developers writing their code, they can see everything, they pick it up, get the design comps, and they just go about their way. So that's an example of what a user story is. I know that was a bit in depth. So a product manager, you know, user stories are coming in all the time, are flowing in here all over the place. And you should be managing the backlog because, excuse me, user stories can come in from, like, you know, this came in from somebody else, you know, and all over. So all these user stories come in, but sometimes you don't have the time to build all of them. So you have to prioritize which ones you need. So you can literally drag and drop and figure out which ones. You can reorder these two. You can determine how long it'll take to build them and prioritize them. When you're ready to build, you push them here, and then to start a sprint, you click on that. You can also look at, right now, nothing is in progress, and you can look at a roadmap. So these are the things that we're going to be doing. That, like I said, it's not just lecture. For this, like a roadmap, we know these are the epic. So to do the student mobile view, that is like, I want to see the student mobile view, but there's a whole lot of things that has to happen with that. So these are all the things: onboarding the user, seeing the splash screen, the animation, initial sign up sequence, initial animation, sign up page 1, 2, 3, the primary login, secondary login. You're going through all these. So you see, it makes sense because when you go on an app, you first onboarding phase, you see a splash screen, it's an animation. There's some more animation, and then it takes you to the first sign up screen. If I click on this, it will give me more information about it. I can go in and it tells me, as a student, I want to put my demographic information. So which means profile and all that. Test case. Give a student wants to sign up for Unity. When the student wants to begin creating a profile, then they split the screen, the screen attached. So this is a screen that is referencing. So that developer or the engineers know that, okay, I need to do this onboarding phase. I need to do the splash screen and follow this sequence. So this is ready. This has been ordered the right way. And then I'm able to go in, and then I'll be able to have all this. Welcome to Unity. I can put in my email, first name, last name, date of birth, all that stuff. I hit next. So everything pertaining to that is here. If there are any issues, it's all linked. I can, connect this to, but I don't want to go too much. I don't want to, veer off from this. I'm getting too excited. So I think I've done enough justice to that. So we can move on to other areas. Or you still want me to go a little bit more about this? Okay, so you see the mobile view, and this is for the web view. That also, this is not done, it's in progress. This resources director web view has this, all the stories are here. We have research, everything is like, these are the epics. So you can set it up against the time, the timeline, the month. We're in June now, this is where we are. So these are some of the things that we want to reinforce, and not just have this be just, lecture upon lecture upon lecture, but you don't really go in and get your hands dirty. You will be writing user stories, Chantel. Lisa, if you're in the course, you will be writing user stories. You know how to do product requirements documentation. You would have the office hours be part of the team. Shantae has had the chance to be in a couple of our meetings, and she sees how things go. So in an interview, when you're speaking, you're really speaking to an experience and not something you just read in the book or something that somebody just told you. It becomes part of you, and it reinforces the whole learning. Okay, let me get back to the slide. Any other questions before I continue?
I don't have any.
Okay, all right. So I guess I'll share the entire screen, and then I'll pick that particular. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me get the right document. Let me minimize this. Okay, and then where's the right document I need? Give me 1 second, please. I lost my PowerPoint presentation. Gosh, where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Okay. I found it. It's loading. Let me know when you can see my screen. Okay. Then let me, goodness. Okay. So now let's share the screen again.
Yeah, we can see it, or I can see it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so let me minimize this. So okay. So I spent a lot of time on this page, to go through everything, where product management is, and the different phases, and it's broken down, where things happen, working with current teams or management, where information will come from. It will come from the market or supply chain. And then, upstream is like when you're planning, developing and launching, and then downstream is going through the life cycle management of the application. So, product management's purpose. The purpose is obviously to create customer value, right? Because we said we want to build software, not just because we're building it, because we just want to build something, but it has the customer value plus measurable business benefit. So the customer should be happy, and that happiness should also translate to what? Dollars and cents. And this can be achieved by working to identify unsolved customer problems. And these can happen in so many ways. Problems can be found everywhere. When you're flying, I think an industry that could use some product management is DMV, right? The whole process is just hell. You go there, you spend like your whole day, and there's no, in the information age, we should be able to log into a portal, and I know some states have it, but it's not widespread. And having like a dedicated product management team where you can even handle, license renewals. You don't have to go in and queue up and wait for your number to be called. You can have a live chat support, and like that's a pain point that I'm thinking about. Some states have, some solutions, some don't, but it would be really good. Hospitals could also use product management to solve backlog, patient onboarding, and all that. Like today, I had a doctor's appointment, but I didn't even know how to reach her. This was a teleconference. I didn't have a link. I did not have any app, so I was really pissed. But that is, can you see my screen still?
It was dark, but now we can.
Okay. Yeah. So product management is identifying unsolved customer problems to create product experiences, right? You unearth customers' problems, even the needs that they don't even know they have. So you can create products and experiences that would delight them. Like, for example, the Dyson ball. Like I said, product management is not just tech. Even airlines have product management when it comes to even how the seats are laid, the difference between coach. They have what they call premium, and they have what they call business class, and even first class is different products offering, and the product managers that are involved to make these happen. FinTech has product managers where they work on different demographics, the unbanked, the youth, the businesses, the separate business customers from normal, daily usage. So, and have different services and products for them, and have product managers that manage all that. So, do you want to create product experiences? You also want to outwit the competition, because you don't exist in a vacuum and you don't exist alone. As I said earlier, the search wars, there were so many search engines that were very popular, right? But today, they still are, but Google is king because they play their cards well. They product management was at the core and at the heart of Google. And that is why they dominated and have, led the competition. Now Microsoft is playing catch up. Apple is playing catch up. Now, just to give you something to think about, right? Guess how much Google pays Apple to become the default search engine in the Safari? Just take a wild guess. Every year, I'll just tell you, I don't know if you're putting the answers in the chat, but every year, Google has to pay Apple 12 billion. It started before it was 2 billion, it went to 4, it went to 6, 8, now it's at about 12 or even more billions of dollars. What was that?
I said, my goodness, wow.
Yeah,
I don't know how much they get out of that. So it may be a pittance compared to that, so.
oh yeah, I mean, they make it up in 1 quarter. But do you know why they're willing to pay that much to Apple to be the default search engine?
Mm-mm.
Because of the, every user will use Google search in the Apple browser. So Apple has billions of iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, and you name MacBook Air. So everyone, even if they use Safari, Google is the default engine, and Google makes the money through what? As we search, click events, ads. So the more eyeballs that you get, so that 12 billion that they're paying, right? They're paying to Google annually to be the default search engine in Safari. It's nothing, because if you look at it, right? Apple has so many users, right? They have so many users. So, and I stand corrected. Last year was 12 billion. Now it's 15 billion. So every year it keeps growing, because there are billions of Apple, for iPhones, and there are different types of it, and all the laptops and you name it. I can't even go to the whole amount of products that they have, and everybody needs to search for something. So if you're the default, you're making advertising dollars every time that you search through Google, because if I run a search, there'll be an advertiser that's paid Google a lot of money just to be on there. So Google figured, yeah, we'll pay you 15 billion, but Google makes it back. And Apple's able to increase that amount year on year. I've been tracking that since maybe 2010 or 2011, and it has always increased. Last year was 12,000, which I said, and I just looked it up, and it's actually at 15, which means next year it's probably going to be at 18 or 20 billion. But Google gets value for it, because in Google Maps, when people search for businesses pay Google to be listed in there when you search. So list the number of businesses in just Illinois alone, just in Chicago alone, just in New York alone, paying Google every month to be on there. So that money, they make it back in like a quarter. So it's a drop in the bucket, but it's a business decision. So this is all because of product management, and Google having product managers looking out and looking at the landscape to outweigh the competition. That's how they're able to take the crown from Yahoo. Yahoo is no longer relevant. They took it from AltaVista, InfoSeek, Dogpile, Ask Jeeves, you name it. Microsoft is playing catch up with Bing, but it's still like, light years behind. Same with browsers. When it was first created, the first browser was created in, the commercial one was done in UIUC in Urbana-Champaign in Illinois. That came out through the NCSA, the National, NSC, or whatever they call it, the National Supercomputing, whatever, in Urbana-Champaign. And then Microsoft licensed the Spyglass software to create Internet Explorer. The guy, Mark Andreessen, went on with his own to create Mosaic, which became what we used to be called, I forgot the name of that thing. Well, it went from, going to different iterations. But then Google comes in and says, okay, there's an Internet Explorer, which was all over the place because Microsoft bundled Internet Explorer with every product that was shipped, right? So they can also have that advertising dollars. And then there was Netscape, that's the name. So the guy who was a student at UIUC, Mark Andreessen, who started, was part of the development for the Mosaic browser that started the whole browser thing. He took that and went to California to start Netscape. It dominated for a while. And then, they didn't iterate because they didn't have product managers to really be working on it. And Microsoft dropped the ball and Google applied their product management to it and systematically and consistently took market share. And today, 1 out of every 3 or 4 users use what? Chrome, right? I don't even need to do a survey, but the numbers, the stats are out there. So product managers are business analysts. You're looking at the competition to outwit the competition. And you're doing this over a long period, in a sustainable period. You are always looking into the market, understanding the market structure. You're understanding your competitors. You have to always have, I said, you have to have your hands like on the pulse of the business, the landscape. You have to be the subject matter expert. You have to be reading blogs, TechCrunch, GigaOM, Newsweek, Bloomberg on your area of expertise. You have to know what Snapchat is doing. You have to know what TikTok is doing. You have to know how many users they have, what's their monthly active usage, all that stuff you need to know. And you have to know what you as a team in your company is also doing, right? So who does product management? That's do you need any specialized degree? Who's a product manager? We ever define who he is, but who does product management? Product management comes in different areas. Some people have come from what? Customer service or customer support, right? Because you learn empathy to become a customer, the advocate for the customer. You are the one that is looking out for the customer and recognizing their needs and translating that to the team to build the right thing. Product managers come from engineering, typical. I came from an engineering and UX background. Some people come from, sales engineer, from a research. Someone like Resny could be a product manager because he does a lot of, in his PhD and the research that he's done, you can position yourself. Some have even come from social work. Some have come from, sales, you name it. The list is endless. So there's no such thing as, oh, there's this particular, I met a guy at Amazon. He was an English major and he wrote stories and books. Now, guess what? He's using that user stories and writing stories, those little stories for software, right? Guiding the narrative, writing epics, writing, tasks and all that. And he's making some good money because he's now, how do you call it? Level 7, a principal level 8, whatever you call it at Amazon, is making a lot of money, right? So, you don't need to have, even in some cases, you don't have to have a college degree, right? You don't have to have had a degree in product management, the people just fall into it and they come from everywhere. So you cannot just say, oh, I'm doing this, so I cannot do it. Whether you do communications, you're a copywriter or whatever you are, product management can be for you if you get the right training and not just lectures and just talk, but you actually get your hands dirty, right? So the domain for product management is vast. Like I said, there are people who are very technical and people who are very market driven and people who are sales driven, people who are more visual, the UX part of product management, and all that. So product management spans all these domains because it depends on the industry you're in. If you're in fintech, you'll be falling more towards customer service, UX, technical, because when you go to fintech, you're dealing with like number crunching and understanding products. Hello? Something, never mind. Yeah, understanding products and how they work, right? So there's so many there's so many applications. So depending on where you are in the value chain, if you're in the marketing, you'll be working on what they call MarTech, which is marketing technology. So you'll be doing mostly market research, marketing, and there's also sales tech. Like Salesforce is a sales, tech applied to sales, and it's like anything you add tech to becomes billions, right? And so you have all these different areas of product management that you can fall in, right? And do the tactical aspect of product management, operational, and also strategic aspect of product management are all covered in this space. So so this slide kind of breaks it down, helps you understand the different. So you see where product managers, traditional generalists usually fall in this area, where they are mostly in this area dealing with UX, value definition, some sort of project management, but not really, but there'll be a project manager who deals with the scheduling, the timing, the when, the releases. Engineers dealing with the how of actually building the product, the UX, working on the look and feel and how it works. And so you find product managers usually in this quadrant or this part of it. I mentioned that there's also product marketing managers who would typically sit in this area where they are embedded closely to sales, to marketing, market research, and also dealing with tactical stuff like customer service, where they understand the customer. There's something called CX, customer experience. You work closely in that domain, right? And then you have the more technical product managers will be in this area. So there's role specializations also within product management. Think about doctors. We have, doctors, but there are different types of doctors. I have a PCP, primary care physician, who's your primary, point of call. We have pediatrics, geriatrics, you have your gynecologist, you have your, you name it. So product management has differentiation. There are generalists and there are specialists also. So there's room for everybody at the table. So what do product managers actually do, right? What is required of you? I think I touched on most of it or some of it at the onset. So you wear many hats, depending on the kind of company that you're in, right? You are the Sherpa, right? You are guiding, or a shepherd. You are guiding the sheep to greener pastures. It could be new ideas, new products, new services, new, or even existing ones that have to be enhanced. It has to be worked on. So you are the person that must deliver value to the business and play a strategic role in determining the actions to achieve this. So we want to achieve revenue increase by 10 billion or whatever billion. Then you have to now lead the team to determine the actions that they have to take. How do we go from point A to point B and walk through that whole step by step to get to where we want to go, right? Like I said, it's very hands-on. You get your hands in so many pies, working on so many things. You could be working in R&D, you could be doing pulled into sales meetings, you could be pulled into marketing meetings, operations, strategy, working with senior managers, depending on your level of seniority. And you'll be in so many areas of the product ecosystem where you are the one leading, because you're always gathering information. All these guys typically don't, they work in silos, and you are the one to break those walls and gather the information from marketing, from R&D, from strategy, from customer service, so that they are getting the information they need and everything they need is being supported, right? So product managers, like I said, you have to like to solve problems. You have to be a problem solver. You see bottlenecks, you see broken systems, things are not working. You have a yearn and a desire to make those work. When product managers, spend a lot of time understanding the customer, right? What the customer needs and wants. So that means doing research, doing surveys, focus groups, going out there, sometimes in the wild. You have to actually be embedded with the user, understanding how they operate. Like when I go to my doctor's office, they have software that runs the operation, because otherwise there'll be so many papers, and they try to reduce trying to reduce, for lack of a better word, accidents or mistakes. So they bring in software, which means we need product managers in health tech too, or med tech, whatever you want to call it, to understand, be embedded with the doctors, understand what the doctors need, be embedded with the nurses, be embedded with the patient support specialists, or you name it, and bringing all the different roles within the medical facility into one repository, and everyone talking to each other, so that you have a very holistic, well-oiled machine that is running efficiently. So sometimes you have to go into the wild and spend time with the people that you want to build the software for, help them understand. You have to understand them. And sometimes customers don't even know what they want, but when you spend time with them, you actually can see the unspoken or unvoiced needs that customers fail to articulate. So you spend time with them to understand. And then after that, you have to develop solutions that will solve these problems that you have really unearthed, to satisfy the customer's needs and wants, right? So as a product manager, our duty is to what? Deliver and maintain the financial benefit to the business, and also not just the business, but also to the other stakeholders. The user is your stakeholder. Your business analyst is your stakeholder. Your accountant, or whoever is in the business, who needs to make sure that, because what you're bringing in revenue, that is sustain the business, that pays your salary, keeps the lights on, and keeps others also employed, right? So that is why it is very critical and very much needed for product managers to be in tech and be able to do the things we do efficiently to drive what? At the end of the day, the bottom line is the bottom line of a business, which is the money. We're not in business just for charity. You have to see things differently as a product manager. So product managers see things differently from, like they say, Donald Trump or goes to New York and sees a building, and he sees tenants, he sees rent being paid, he sees commercial real estate. Any other person just sees, oh, beautiful architecture, this is nice, this building looks beautiful. But in a Donald Trump mind, a world-renowned realtor, give or take, hate him or love him, he sees the Sears Tower, or any building that he sees, he's looking at what's the value. People shopping in a mall, people own a shopping complex. This is what that they see, right? So you have to know, work closely with the user to understand, does the carpenter really need a drill? Or does, basically that question is more like, what is the actual purpose of asking for that feature that you're asking for? The carpenter actually wants to drill holes and drill them quickly and efficiently and accurately. So the drill is just a means to an end. So you have to unearth and understand why, the motivations, understand the needs and wants, and communicate that effectively, right? So the carpenter has a problem. He needs a hole in the wall, and drill can solve this problem. But there are other things that can solve the problem too. Use a hammer. You can use different things. So there's a lot of things that come into it to create a hole in the wall. And you have to understand what is the customer, in this case, the carpenter, what is their pain point? What do they really want? Do they just want to make a hole? Well, just take a knife and make a hole. They need to make a specific type of hole. And so they want to do it quickly, which is the speed at which the hole is made. They want to make it accurately. They also want to be safe when doing it, right? So they don't hit their the fingers when they are trying to draw the hole. They want to have, make it easy using the device, has to be reliable. Reliability means so many things. It has to have constant power and torque, and not just need charging every few minutes of working. Because when you have to build a house, you have no time to waste. So all these things are gathered by the the product manager to understand. So bring it back to the team. Understand what is the price point of this carpenter. What is the how much are they willing to spend? How do we support them when they actually buy from us? So we as product managers, we define a problem using all these criteria that we've gathered, to enforce and guide, to work, bring about a solution, because we're always looking to solve problems. So you product managers write a lot, taking notes, keeping notes, being detail oriented, being specific. It is very important. So you have to be well organized and detail oriented, and always know, keep a log of what you're doing, so you don't go crazy. Now, this is just like a framework to kind of conceptualize what product management goes, or how the whole thing flows, right? So for example, as a product manager, like I said, taking things from ideas, right? That's the innovation aspect. That's the product development, right? And the life cycle management. There are different styles, but the most ones are, there's, the idea stage, where you're just fomenting the idea in your mind and drawing the key stakeholders to help drive that vision home. Then you start right here, you're just daydreaming, you're gaining ideas. They can come from every inspiration. Last time I made an analogy with how products would features were designed. When Apple created the iPhone, it was groundbreaking, it was revolutionary, and it was avant-garde, something that has never been seen, right? And what happened was everything was fine, but how do you keep enter this app or be able to open and close it? And they had no way. There was no way at that time, but they went into the ideation stage, thinking about different ways and means to come to this realization. Now, an idea came from an unusual source. The way you open an iPhone is you slide to open, and then when you just close, it closes, or you slide again, it opens. One of the product managers or product developers on this iPhone happened to be catching a flight. I don't know where he was headed, but on the way on this flight, he had to use the bathroom. And while waiting for his turn, he realized that, you go into the bathroom of the plane, first of all, it gives that indication that is vacant or is occupied. And then you go in, you slide, and it locks. And when you're done doing your business, you slide to unlock, and you're out of the bathroom. And he was like, oh my goodness, Eureka. Took pictures, videoed it, and tried it on and on. And then that's where he, I'm thinking he probably came in, explored the idea, brought it in with a team that designed it, they immersed themselves in it. They defined how it will work. Some developers and designers quickly did a prototype. They built it, they, tested it, and wow, it worked. Said, come on, let's launch this. They push it. That is an example of like a simple, it's not always that simple, right? So there's what we call, you build, you measure, and then you learn. Some products are so big that you need to have what we call several turns in the wheel. So you build quickly, you release it out incrementally, and you have metrics on the product to measure how it's doing out there. And then you learn quickly from what data points you can gather. And then you learn from it and reintroduce it to the next build, and you keep ideating. So that's kind of like, this is one example of a product life cycle, right? So the starting point, going through product market maintenance, monitoring the product performance, gather results, report on the results. Then as you get a result, you also get feedback. Hey, the chart is not working, or this thing is broken. That particular you guys thought, in the lab or at work, when you're in the office, you thought it would go from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but then users are now going from A to G, G to I to F, they're just all over the place. So you realize that, no, we probably should change things around, or you forgot to highlight certain things, so it makes it a little harder, right? So it is a ongoing process, is a living, breathing organism that needs to be maintained, that needs to be monitored, and no product can survive by, not keeping it nimble and adapting to change market forces and change the market, having the insight, be able to see the product life cycle and see how to accommodate changes that may come in any given time. So, I mean, most of these things I've already touched on, initiating ideas, assessing them. You don't just take an idea and just start getting the team on to build and build and build and then find out it didn't really work. You get the idea, explore it, assess it, have data to support it, do some MVP, which is a minimal viable product, test it out, get some data points, and then when it makes sense, you formulate a product strategy, right? Develop a product and marketing initiative, and a roadmap of how to achieve this before you launch it, right? So you have the different phases: innovate, design, implement, going through the different iterations, getting the idea like I said, it comes from different sources. You want to get so many options. For, in this case, the Apple swipe to unlock, they probably had different ideations, and they wrote all those down. Okay, one is swipe to unlock, one is probably, like how Android has it, you can do a pattern to unlock or something. They had maybe 5 of them. They prioritize it. They looked at the business, the idea, the business problems, and rank it. And then it's now select and validate one of them, or 2 or 3, see the value in it in the marketplace, and then you turn it into a concept to be evaluated internally, and see how it stands from your scrutiny internally. Then now you go, when it passes all that, you go to engaging deeply with your stakeholders, including customers, to deliver an effective solution that solves the problem. You're still in that phase. You do surveys, you do surveys, you do focus groups, you do tests, user testing, you get more information, and now you analyze the data you collect, define and design the product, and consider all the other solutions. Then you work closely with the development team to build and check the outcomes with the market. And then you're preparing to launch it, crafting the message around this product. Why should people use it, right? External messaging about the product, the value of the product to the market, and articulate the product differentiation. So as I was telling Shantae, that being part of IOTA Digital Lab will be that she's going to have, she's going to get her hands dirty, working product requirement documentation. What must go into it? Preparing to launch a product. You don't wait like, okay, I'm the product marketing manager, so I'm just gonna sit and wait. Guys, when it's time, just let me know so I can jump in. No, you need to be involved from here, taking notes, and then testing and different copies, and things will change. Okay, hey, we thought we were going in that direction, but things change, so let's go a different direction. So that copy has to change. Differentiating the product. How do we differentiate ourselves from the market? What is being offered in the market versus what we have, to really create something worth of meaning, right? So in this phase, there's always iteration. At each phase, it's not like you're moving from one phase like a hopscotch, moving from the bottom and going, you could be here and some of the team could be here. Some are already here in design, because the first turn created some data points that has to be now analyzed and dissected and validated. And whilst that is happening, you push the next one, you get us some more data, and it's in the backlog, has to be prioritized, has to be sized, has to be this, evaluated, and then another turn and turn. So if you're a company that does sprints by every 2 weeks, so every quarter has 3 months. So you're looking at how many? About 12 weeks. So you can get 6 sprints in. So you turn this 6 times, and each turn you get data to inform. So Q1, you get all the data. Q2, you get immense amount of data. By Q3, you have a trove of data to really work to build something. And so if your target is to launch by Q4 or Q1 of next year, you know, most likely you'd have some very good data to support the whole process. And then of course, launching is when you get everything done and it's ready to go to the market. Now, how does one get into product management? There's so many ways. One is what we're doing right now. We are sharing knowledge. We're not just going to be just getting information only, but we're going to get our hands dirty. You can read books, you can watch videos, there's so many things you can do, right? You can read blogs, you can talk to other product managers. You can apply for a job and just get thrown in the deep end and just learn how to swim. But you know, there's so many ways. So there's no one way is not better than another, because you can go through classes and not really get any hands-on experience, and then you come out really not knowing anything and not being, you know, you just threw your money away, right? So books, blogs, podcasts, videos, YouTube, you name it. There are so many ways that you can get into product, but I think it's a combination of one or few of these to guide the whole process. All right, so to summarize, good product managers or management is all about delivering products that customers love. But not just that, that's the main thing, but behind it is also making sure that it goes through all this. So a good product management is about delivering products that customers love. That's one. And then product managers have to use logic. That's analytics, you know, logical or thinking, insight, which is using data, insight, and analytics. And you have to have some level of creativity, right, in defining, developing, and deploying and maintaining these products. As a product manager, you are a guide, right? You are the shepherd. You are the conductor of the orchestra. There's a word called Sherpa. I don't know if you're familiar with it. People that go up to the Mount Everest or to the mountains usually need to be guided, right, by someone called a Sherpa. So you are someone that will guide, but then you don't do this alone. You collaborate with others, other parts of the business and external stakeholders to make this happen. And you have to do all this as a product manager, you know, to deliver also measurable benefit to the organization. So you start with a customer, obsessing about the customer, and applying all these tools that we want to develop in the course of this program. And then you work by being a leader, because you're a product lead or tech lead, and you collaborate. That is, you have that built-in mechanism to work with, you work with others, because you're not working in a vacuum, right? And then you basically eventually evolve from there to build products, right? So yeah, that is in a nutshell what product management is about. One thing that I want to point out also, which I did with Shante earlier, is these days, the way that everything is tech driven, even hiring is, you know, tech driven. So tech is definitely eating the world, code. So there's something called ATS, Automated Tracking System, that needs to run through all these thousands and thousands of millions of resumes, and it's looking for keywords. So it's always great to want to be pulled out in searches by, you know, using the same fundamental search technology that powers search engines like Google, by having words like what? Project manager, program manager, business analyst, or similar titles, or product marketing manager of some sort. When these, you know, recruiters are running these queries, they cast the net wide, and then they basically fish and sift. It's like, you know, there's these huge trawlers. they use their digital trawlers to cast a vast, wide search, and then it pulls in a lot. It may pull in some good, it may pull in some junk, but they then sift through, and slowly, by process of elimination and screening, they will come to the conclusion and figure out who is really good for the role, right? And then that will determine who gets the call and who gets moved on to the next step. So that's kind of the process that they go in. So in your resume, in your on your LinkedIn profiles, you just want to put something close to that. And then also when you have some relevant experience, it makes it much easier for recruiters and product in product management to want to reach out to you fairly quickly and do a quick screen, right? Usually it's like 30 minutes. It's kind of like the trawler analogy. They just go in, get as many fish as they can, and quickly figure out, okay, this one is too small. Let's throw it back into the ocean. This one is good, and they have a certain number of people, and then they it's like work their way to finding some eligible candidates that they can actually work with. Then you meet the hiring manager, and then when they all say okay with you, you can check off some of their boxes. They push you along the line to now the team, and have a series of interviews, and then finally, hopefully you make it the final round and get an offer. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what product management is. And so we've talked about what to expect in the course, and what it's going to be hands-on. There'll be some projects and work to be done, like user story writing, product requirement documentation, doing the timeline and roadmap. All these are very critical to skills that has to be really honed, because at the end of the day, you can be coached and say what you want to say, but when the rubber hits the road, you will be found wanting, and it will not look good. Yeah. So that brings me to the end of today's first lecture. Do you have any questions? Or any concerns that I can address? Hello? Okay, so Shantae says, how many tools do product managers use? There's a plethora of them, from Gantt charts to Jira to Trello boards, to you have to know some data analytics, how to be able to, depending on the role, sometimes you have to be able to do SQL queries to get the data you need. If there's not a dedicated data team, you should be able to query and find what you need at any given time. So the tools you need will vary based on the industry, and also based on the company that you are the product manager for, and also based on the product itself. So fintech will be a lot of Trello, a lot of data tools, a lot of analytical tools. So there's a lot depending on company, product, and also what stage the company is in. You're welcome. Romy, do you have any questions?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It's about 5 to the top of the hour. And the absence of no questions, I really want to thank you so much for making the time to join in this call, in this first session. And I'm really looking forward to, guiding you through this journey and transforming you into becoming top product leaders and product managers in your respective field of choice. And once again, thank you for taking the chance on me. And all I ask of you is to commit and be coachable, and success will be your portion. All right, I will close this in the next 30 seconds. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.